All right, and then what do I do? The countdown?
The model. Hi, Doobie.
Hey, I forgot to ask you, who's actually like hosting, like doing all the intro stuff? Is that me or you?
That's me.
Okay, go for it.
You're the ask question guy. This is what happens when Rebecca takes a vacation. We have to sum it with Doobie. So welcome to LP In Depth, where we're going to go and talk about the Disney Investor Day 2020. So say hello, Doobie.
This is probably redundant at this point. Hello, Doobie. Nice to be here. By the way, I am the co-founder of Laughing Place, so while my skills are few, my credentials are many.
There's a joke there, but I'm not going to go there. So you probably have seen some of our Look Ahead series on YouTube where we've gone through Disney Animation and Pixar, and we're going to go through that again with Marvel Studios, Disney Live Action, as well as Pixar. So we're not going to go too deep into the content today, although we're going to highlight some of our picks. But we kind of want to translate what they said from an investor perspective and show you what that means as either a Disney fan or Disney stockholder that might not speak investor, which makes you smarter than them.
So are we going to translate EBITDA?
EBITDA? Well, that didn't come up, but we can talk ARPU and EMEA.
Cool. By the way, since you do have this guy up here who kind of crosses the line between business and Disney like no one I know, feel free to use those comments to ask us questions. That's why we do these live, is so that it can be interactive and because it's much less effort that way. So, all right.
Okay, so just to kick it off, they kind of led with the big Shazam number, which is they announced 10 new Marvel series, 10 Star Wars series, 15 Disney live action, Disney animation, and Pixar series, and 15 Disney animation, Disney live action, and 15 features that are coming to Disney Plus. Now, originally we had thought that this was going to be a Disney Plus focused event. But while they did talk a lot about Disney Plus and their investment in Disney Plus was very important, they made it very clear that they are not looking at their content strategy as this is Disney Plus content and this is theatrical content. They also made it very clear that they believe that the theatrical exclusive window can be successful for movies going forward, unlike AT&T, which is just putting everything on HBO Max. So they talked a little bit about their different strategy. Obviously, Star Wars The Mandalorian was their first original marquee series. Season 2 ends this week and has been gangbuster success. Not only was it successful on its own right, it also launched the child craze, or Grogu, or the Asset, or Baby Yoda, whatever you want to call it this week, but shows that Disney is able to take content from their streaming service and bring it across their media.
That's a quick question. In terms of 20 new shows, so my first thought was, wow, we've only had one so far, The Mandalorian, but I'm guessing actually The Mandalorian Gallery counts as a show, right? So we've actually had...
No, I wouldn't count that as a series. I think...
Really?
It would, right. I mean, it is a series, but I think when they're talking scripted, because they did not mention Disney Plus unscripted at all.
Oh, wow. So we really mean 20 really actual new shows. That's amazing. Okay.
So then they talked a little bit about Soul, which is being straight to Disney Plus at no additional fee this Christmas. It's interesting that they're not marking this as a Disney Plus original, but a Disney Plus debut. We've talked before about how at animation, all the people that make the movies are employees, unlike a live action film where you hire a crew, you hire actors, you hire a director. Everyone who works on this movie works for Pixar. So they're going to have a certain amount of output, because otherwise you're paying them to do nothing, or you'd have to have layoffs, which I think Disney wants to avoid. So there's only so much that they're going to push back an animated film because there's other animated films coming out right after it. So in that vein, they announced Raya and the Last Dragon will be coming into theater in 2021, as well as Disney Plus Premier Access same day, which is for $29.99. And what they hinted, without going out and saying it, is basically while theaters are closed, movies that they intended to make theatrically will be available through Premier Access. They did not seem to know what they want to do with Premier Access once theaters open up and the COVID's gone, because we don't know. I mean, we don't know. Disney doesn't know when theaters will return to normal operation. The vaccine is on one side, and then you have rising case numbers on the other, and it's anyone's guess.
So, given that, why do you think Soul wasn't on this Premier Access?
I think because they were still trying to. A couple of reasons. Still trying to figure out, where they wanted to take Premier Access when they announced Soul. And also, streaming services see great rises during holidays, which is why it's probably a Christmas Day release. And to give something a reason for families to get together and subscribe to Disney Plus is probably worth it, as opposed to adding another barrier to entry.
So, like Mike says, after Mando, a reason to stay.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because, we all thought that after Mando, people would drop the service, that they would, we thought that about Hamilton. We thought that about a lot of things that might have gotten people subscribed. And it seems like their churn's a lot lower than we might have anticipated. The other thing that I think you'll see in the content that they've announced, as well as in their own words, Disney Plus has seen more families without children subscribe, or households without children, than they had originally anticipated. So you're seeing a lot more millennial targeted product. And I mean, that is, from a nostalgia standpoint. So, and we'll get there in just a little bit. So just to see where at the last Investor Day in April of 2019, they announced these targets to reach by the end of fiscal 2024, which would have been September of 2024. They announced 60 to 90 million Disney Plus subscribers, 40 to 60 million Hulu subscribers, and 8 to 12 million ESPN Plus subscribers. Now, they've obviously reached that. Disney Plus is already sort of at the top level of the limit, about 3 years early. Hulu is almost at the lower range, and ESPN Plus is almost at the top of that limit. So Hulu might have seen relatively slower growth than they expected, but all three of those are performing better than they would have anticipated.
So let me get this straight. You said September 24 is when they gave guidance for nearly 4 years from now.
Right.
Was Disney being extremely conservative, or do you think Disney looks at these numbers and goes, oh my goodness, what the heck is going on here?
I think there's a little bit of both. I think one is they were being conservative because you don't want to miss your numbers. I think two is the strength of The Mandalorian, as well as some of the other product that has been debuted on Disney Plus, made it so that their expectations for single families was a lot higher. Because for young people, that aren't married yet, you might have two subscriptions. Whereas you get into a family, they're going to have one family subscription. So, and then I think internationally the services performed much better than expected.
Are the fact that the Hulu and ESPN Plus numbers also so strong an indication of those services, or an indication of the bundle?
I think it's an indication of the bundle. The bundle has performed very well. And I think when we get into Star, you might realize that Disney sort of might have, with Hulu, they really didn't have a choice, but they might have regretted not having it just be one big service. But as Mike says, no kids here. We're in our 50s and love the Star Wars content and lots of original content, not in it for the cartoons. And much like any service, you don't need to love everything, as long as there's enough to justify right now $6 a month, soon, or right now $7 a month, soon $8 a month. I think that's okay. It was a free hat, but thanks.
Yeah, I should have worn mine.
So obviously the streaming services are just performing gangbusters.
Unlike HBO Max, they have no need to bribe people to subscribe by getting rid of theatrical.
Right, exactly. It's also HBO Max is about twice the price. Disney Plus had 10 million signups as of day one. They launched in many countries across Europe, Asia, and Latin America. Came online primarily November 17th. And they expect to launch in new markets across EMEA, which is Europe, Middle East, and Africa, and Asia in the next year. So they've really grown. They're really accelerating their international launch as we get ahead. They also talked a little bit about making the service accessible, which is one of the things that some of the other services, that aren't available on Roku. They talked about how Disney Plus and ESPN Plus will join Hulu and be integrated into the Xfinity X1 platform for those of you that like having clunky set-top boxes. And last year they had the Verizon deal where you got a year of Disney Plus free. Now the Disney bundle is included in their highest level of unlimited plans, kind of segueing into that. As we talked about, they're highlighting the Disney bundle at $12.99 a month. If you go to disneyplus.com, they're going to steer you into the bundle with sort of a small little thing. If you only want to subscribe to Disney Plus, click here. So, and they announced that there will be a Hulu with no ads plan available for $6 more, so about $18.99 a month, launching as well. Also, they talked about partnerships like Disney Plus and bundling with Fortnite. And they're really trying to show that they're being a good partner across, that their ability to be in international devices, new markets, is really part of their strength. I'm talking about Hotstar, which is in India and some other countries. It's available in 7 local languages and 17,000 hours of local programming. Local programming, when you go international, sometimes is required by law, but also is key to getting people to subscribe. They love the big blockbuster entertainment, but they want something that is targeted to their demo. I think Mike has a good point. So yeah, cricket, obviously a big deal in India. I shouldn't say obviously, you might not know that, but it's a big deal in India. And that's part of Hotstar, which is part of the reason why that's a big bundle for them. Now, the economics of India, I mean, you're getting just fractions of, what a US subscriber would build, but it's a growing market. Presumably the growing middle class will mean that, eventually those prices will come up, and it's just a big, it's a very populous country. So this is a big deal, but this is. I feel
like I'm in high school. Are these slides going to be available online, or should I be taking notes?
Yeah, this version won't be available online because I changed them, but the Disney version is available online. So Disney Plus is going to be, a couple earnings calls ago, they announced that Star is coming, which will be their general audience streaming service. Now they're doing it in 2 different ways. In Canada, Europe, Australia, and New Zealand, they're going to be launching Star, which is bundled together in Disney Plus. Essentially, it becomes the 6th brand of Disney Plus. So as you can see here, you have Rise of Skywalker and Simpsons, which is on Disney Plus, but some very non-Disney Plus type content, The Shape of Water, Kingsman, Love, Victor, and Terminator.
But that looks confusing. What if I'm a child on Disney Plus and think I'm safe and accidentally click that Star button?
Well, there you go. So the parental controls will be you have to log in. You can designate who has 18 and up content, and then you can also set a pin so that if dad wants to have his content, and not if your kid's smart enough to figure out how to switch profiles, which is probably any kid faster than an adult, they have to know your PIN to get into the service. So it's on a per profile basis. You can pick it. So you would end up having 3 levels. You'd have your kids, which includes Disney Junior and extremely non-exceptional content. You'll have sort of a general Disney Plus, and then you'll have the 18 and up, which includes FX and Hulu and stuff like that. I do want to point out one thing that's cool is if you add on 18 plus content, the Marvel tab will include stuff like Logan, theoretically Deadpool, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Hellstrom, Marvel stuff that currently isn't appropriate for Disney Plus.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is not appropriate for Disney Plus?
I mean, I think it is, but
they have it on Hulu right now.
Yeah.
Do you think this will come if you have the bundle? They'll just put Hulu as a button on the Disney Plus at some point.
That's a great question. I hope so, because quite frankly, it's frustrating to have to go between the 2. Any day now.
You need to go take care of that?
That will take care of itself. So I think so. I think that ESPN Plus is going to be integrated with Hulu. So I think it's a matter of time that you would have like a bundle app, which would show all three. Probably it's not a priority because, as a grown up, I don't care. I don't want to have to figure out, is Logan 18 up or not? I mean, I might know that, but
No, that's the cool part. It's not that big a deal, except it'd be so cool to be able to go to Marvel on Disney Plus and see all the Marvel, and go to ESPN and see all the ESPN instead of just the family ESPN. You can see late night Sports Center.
Scott Van Pelt After Dark. Yeah, I agree. I'm kind of jealous because I would love to have Star, like Disney Company content in one spot. And
that speaks for itself.
So Star is launching February 23rd, additional markets later. And so they're raising the price in Europe to about €9. So it's about $2 increase with about 1,000 titles available across the service. In Latin America, they're going to take a different strategy. So it'll be launched in June, and it will, because of the strength of ESPN in Latin America, essentially instead of merging Star and Disney, they're going to merge Star and ESPN. So you have an ESPN service with the sports content as well as ESPN Plus Originals, plus the Star, which is a Disney adult or general entertainment content, as they say. So that's $7.50 on itself. They don't think many people are going to do that. They think most people add the $1.50 and get Disney Plus as well for $9, local equivalent. So there's two different things, Star and Star Plus, and in America we get none of it. But
this is like, who's in charge of figuring all this out all around the world? Because this is just insanely logistically complicated.
Well, Rebecca Campbell leads the international business. And Disney Plus and streaming. So, she reports to Kareem Daniel, but I think Rebecca Campbell would be the executive that is leading this effort. And it's smart, instead of one size fits all, obviously we have Hulu. So you're not going to suddenly switch Hulu to something else. Hulu has a brand, Hulu has a product. So, but internationally where they don't have Hulu, you're not going to suddenly launch Hulu because you're not going to have the local, access to other people's product that Hulu has. Through previous arrangements.
Well, she is doing a great job.
Speaking of Hulu, so you can see the subscriber growth there. They seem to be adding about 8 million subscribers a year. Don't know if that will slow down, pick up, but that's the current growth. And they have their different plans. Unlike Disney Plus, this is not a one size fits all offering. You have their what they call SVOD, which is just video on demand. For $6 more, you can have no ads. For $64.99, you can have live TV. And for $70.99, you can have live TV with no ads. What's interesting is if you have live TV, they generate $10 in advertising revenue from you on average a year. So they actually have no interest in getting you to a no ads plan because ads make more than the additional cost.
$10 per month they make off of you?
Yeah.
Dang. Question for you. How big a deal is live TV, both in terms of Disney, in terms of streaming in general? Where does Hulu rank in terms of all the various services? Is live TV a big deal?
So live TV, when it comes to news and sports, is obviously where live TV is important. Hulu plus live TV has 4 million subscribers, which is the number one, what they call DMVPD, or digital media video multi-video provider distributor. But basically what we would used to call cable company. And they're one of the top 5 pay TV providers. So you have your Comcast, your Charters and stuff, but they're the biggest online live TV group. Now, obviously 4 million is much smaller than the 200 million they expect to have on Disney Plus, but domestically it's a big deal. Now, I talk about news. ABC News is one of the initiatives they're highlighting. You can watch ABC News live for free. Well, not for free, for all subscribers right now. And they're going to do more partnership with them. And you don't have to be a live TV subscriber. But if you want all of ESPN's content, not just the ESPN Plus stuff, you would have to have a live TV subscription. So, I think it's pretty well known that live TV as a video distributor is, for programming is dwindling, but there are events, sports and news that people want to see live. And then sometimes people just want, Pluto TV, which isn't Disney, that, they just broadcast. So some people just want to put on a channel and just have it go and not pay attention, especially as they're working from home.
I feel like the major reason for me to have live TV is so I can have access to all those channels video on demand, as well as use that as my sign in for, all the direct websites, but I never actually watch anything live.
Well, and that's the dual revenue stream that they have right now. Who knows what the future is for that, but that's the way it is.
Yes, I do. And I also remember the anger in family members when all of a sudden they start having commercials on cable. It's good. What am I paying for?
So speaking of Hulu, FX on Hulu has been one of their major initiatives. Obviously, it would be FX on Star moving forward if you're international. And there's a case of Dave, which is on FXX. Nearly no one watches it live, like nobody.
What is FXX? FXX is a normal channel?
Yeah, it's a linear channel.
Okay.
We talked about ABC News a bit already. And then theatrical, they've had...
Let me ask you a question. So before you leave FX too much. So I was doing some work on our website and noticed that one of my favorite shows right now, A Teacher, not A Teacher as it was said in the thing, by the way, A Teacher was on our FX section, yet I watch it on Hulu and I thought it was just on Hulu. So what's going on there?
It is. It's created by FX, but on Hulu. Okay. So FX has a certain programming budget for linear, and then they have a certain programming budget for FX on Hulu. So there's only shows they can make for FX, and then the rest go to FX on Hulu.
That's confusing. Okay.
So they talked about the movies. Here's some movies they've had some success with in the last, looks like about a year. Palm Springs, Run, Bad Hair, The Binge. But they did announce that 20th Century Studios and Searchlight will be making original films for Hulu with more information to come. We don't know if that means some of the theatrical films that we expected from 20th Century are going to go straight to Hulu, or if they're going to create other films directly for this, or a mixture of both.
Hulu at this point does not have, or at least hasn't had, a premium access to where like they could release a rated R 20th Century film on Hulu.
Well, the rated R doesn't matter, but if you mean
something that wouldn't be appropriate on Disney Plus.
No, so they don't have a premiere access yet, although they do have things like Showtime and HBO you can subscribe to. So I imagine that they would have the capability if they felt the need.
Okay. Because obviously, if they did decide they wanted to start releasing some of these Fox movies simultaneously, like they're doing Raya, that wouldn't be on Disney Plus. That would be on Hulu.
Yeah, assuming it's not family friendly. There might be, there's plenty of 20th Century movies on Disney Plus, but it's gonna be based on what the movie is. And I just want to bring up, as we talked, Hulu does have ads and is investing a lot in advertising technology, because that's, unlike Netflix, it's something that kind of separates it. Right? You have the option to not have ads, but if you do get ads, they have things like QR codes and click here for more.
Wow, how innovative.
So before we get into the fun of Disney, we're going to talk ESPN Plus. So this slide I shared just because this is number one sports direct-to-consumer service. I can think of one other direct-to-consumer service, and so yay! But the growth is impressive. A lot of it driven by the bundle. Over 10,000 events, and UFC has obviously been a big deal for ESPN Plus, particularly when there was no other sports happening over the summer.
I don't know if people have gone. If you go to ESPN Plus and just look at live events available, your mind will be boggled just at the amount of choices you have from every sport in the world at various levels. If you are just a sports fan, it is insane what's out there on ESPN Plus that you otherwise would not see.
Mike has a point. It wasn't Touchstone used for non-Disney films? It was. They actually just retired Touchstone branding, which they brought back for television about 6 months ago. But now I think the 20th Century brand's probably a little bit stronger for them than Touchstone ever was. But they, as we're talking about, we talked earlier how ESPN, this event was not just for direct to consumer. And so ESPN is going to still be investing in cable, where it's number one in cable for 10 years in a row, but they're also number one in digital. And they expect to see some growth through betting, which is interesting because, for so long there was major concerns about Disney getting involved in any way with gambling. But the stigma of gambling, particularly on the younger generation, doesn't seem as strong. So they have a studio in Las Vegas now. Thanks to 20th Century, they have a partnership with DraftKings. So they expect that to be a big growth driver for them moving ahead.
And that's also why I'm expecting the next 3 cruise ships to have a huge casino.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But going back to ESPN Plus, talking about live events, we're in the midst of college football season. There's tons of college football, tons of college basketball, only a certain number of ESPN channels. So there's a lot of great games on ESPN Plus. If you're into, you're a fan of a smaller market, a smaller conference, not one of the Power Fives, or even some Power Five games on ESPN Plus. For example, Disney announced an agreement with the SEC. So they're going to have games on ESPN, the Prime package, which was on CBS, but they're going to have games across ESPN, ABC, SEC Network, and ESPN Plus. And they built in flexibility to move them across those services as the need arises, and expect that to go moving forward. As Disney negotiates new sports deals, expect ESPN Plus to be a big part of that conversation.
I wanted to mention, I don't think he says Disney is after the money wherever they can find it. I think that is mostly true, but they definitely take their reputation into account. Disney is not on the leading edge. As Ben said, gambling becomes more and more socially acceptable, then Disney follows that wave as well. And, as well as many other social things that maybe 20 years ago weren't considered too socially acceptable. As they become more mainstream, Disney is happy to follow. They're not going to be on the cutting edge, but they're also not going to be left behind.
So soccer is a big deal for ESPN Plus. They have all sorts of international rights. If you're a soccer fan, there's really no question that ESPN Plus offers value. But obviously we're in America, so not everyone's a soccer fan. They have PGA and a bunch of original contents. Here's some series and movies here. Roll the Tape, NBA Rooks, Mike Greenberg's Better Days, which is a lot of fun, docu-series. And this man
quite frankly, I've seen enough of this man.
So I want to talk a little bit, because if you watched our show last week, I mentioned if you're a personality at ESPN and you want to make for the amount of money you used to make, Disney's going to need to find a way to make you be on ESPN Plus. And so they announced that they're probably their biggest commentator, sort of without a doubt, I think, Stephen A. Smith will have a new daily show on ESPN Plus. So I'm right, is I guess the
and then just let that sit there. Everyone just absorb the fact that Benji was right.
The Man in the Arena, in the spirit of The Last Dance, Man in the Arena and Tom Brady, the whole 30 for 30 library, and NFL Primetime, which I was curious to see how successful this is, but considering how much they are pushing it, it must at least have strong sampling. So if you want to relive the ESPN of the 90s, you can watch Primetime with Berman and Booger each Sunday on ESPN Plus.
It's not the original guy anymore whose name I can't think
Tom Jackson?
of. Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Original content detail started by Kobe Bryant, but now expands all sorts of sports, including football, Peyton Manning, UFC, baseball. It's sort of the deep dive analysis. If you're really into the sport, X's and O's and all that stuff, that's a great series for you. It's not flashy at all, but it really goes in depth, and that you don't normally get in a 2.5 minute Sports Center highlight.
And like Mike says, tired of him yelling at the TV. I'm guessing he means Stephen A. Smith. There is that level of sportsdom where you got people yelling at each other about the same 5 topics all day long. But I mean, if you're a hardcore sports fan, just pop over to ESPN Plus. You can watch detail and there's something for everybody, which is obviously their goal.
And Peyton's Places, I don't know if you've seen this show. It just renewed for season 3. It's a fun, lighthearted talk about sports show, and they've announced that they're expanding into other sports like baseball, Big Papi, and UFC, and all sorts of other things. So this is my favorite thing on ESPN Plus. It also has seen great success with the Disney bundle. There's a lot of crossover for people who aren't sports fans, still like paying places.
I'm getting to it.
So now we're going to talk content for the services. So here's some stuff that's on Hulu, and we decided we're all going to pick our favorites. And Doobie, what's your favorite from Hulu?
From Hulu, let me go to my look here. There is no question that this is not only my favorite from Hulu, this is the single biggest thing I'm looking forward to out of everything that was announced on Thursday. And that is the upper right there, The Dropout, the story of Elizabeth Holmes and Theranos. I listened to the podcast. I watched HBO series on that. I read the book on it, and I am looking forward to a, what do you call those actors playing it out? There's a word for that, but I'm looking forward to. Sure. I'm looking forward to this version that's going to be on Hulu like nobody's business. Theranos is an endlessly fascinating story, and I'm very excited that this is coming.
Mine is, and Doobie's going to hate me, Only Murders in the Building. I'm a sucker for a comedic mystery.
No. Martin Short's in it.
Yeah, I understand. But so is Disney legend Steve Martin and future Disney legend Selena Gomez. So that's my pick. I love the Dropout podcast, but I like fun.
Rise and fall business stories are fun.
This is FX. We already have Mrs. America, Devs, and a teacher, but joining them, you'll have The Old Man, starring not Lloyd Bridges.
Todd Bridges?
No, what's
Lloyd Benson?
Kevin Flynn. What's his name?
Who?
Kevin Flynn from Tron.
Oh, Jeff Bridges.
Jeff Bridges, that's right.
Father of Todd Bridges, I believe.
American Horror Stories, which is a spinoff of American Horror Story. The Platform with BJ Novak. Reservation Dogs from Taika Waititi. Why the Last Man, based on the comic book. Shogun, an adaptation of the classic Japanese tale.
For those of you alive, what was it? Was that 70s or no? I guess it was probably early 80s. For those of you who were alive back then, there was no bigger, putting roots aside, there was no bigger television event than Shogun. That was huge for us old people.
And Alien.
Yeah, no question here. The second thing I'm looking most forward to after The Dropout is Alien, a prequel series to like one of the greatest horror movies of all time. I am so excited, and done by people that are good. Who's in charge of that? What are their credits?
Noah Hawley, I believe, is the guy who does Fargo for FX,
right?
For FX.
So I'm so excited for Alien.
I'm gonna go Shogun just because Alien creeps me out.
Shogun will be big. I think Shogun's going to be extremely huge, assuming it's good, because it's just it's got a big built-in audience.
Oh, wrong computer.
And A Teacher is great. It's not new, but A Teacher, I love A Teacher.
So here we go. So this is when, for a little bit of inside LP in depth, this is when our ability to cover everything just kind of went out the window.
And we try. That's very important to our CEO up there, is to cover the entire company and every bit of it.
And in like 5 minutes, they announced a gazillion things. So we know about The Mandalorian, Disney Plus original. Then they announced Rangers of the New Republic and Ahsoka will kind of spin off and interact with each other in sort of a cinematic universe embedded inside a bigger cinematic universe inside of Turkey. And Andor, which is the formerly titled Rogue One prequel series, the cleverly named Obi-Wan Kenobi series, Bad Batch, Visions, which is Star Wars tales told through anime creators, Lando. Which you got to see the like sizzle reel, right? I mean, it was clips of like Star Wars that had, it's not nothing. They haven't started filming or anything, but it was supposed to give you the feeling of what it felt like. And only thing I can think of is swagger. Like,
for those of you who've seen Billy D. Williams ads back in the 70s with the Colt 45 ads, that's what it feels like Lando is. That feeling of, I'm Billy D. Williams, I've got my Colt 45, I got my lady, and let's just turn the camera on and see what happens.
The Acolyte, A Droid Story, which is a quasi-animated feature, Willow, the series, and then Rogue Squadron, which is not listed as a Disney push, but is listed as theatrical. They also briefly mentioned Taika Waititi's Star Wars film. No talk of Rian Johnson's trilogy, but whatever. So I want to bring up a couple things here. One is Rogue Squadron is directed by Patty Jenkins, who directed Wonder Woman and Wonder Woman 1984. And when Warner Brothers announced that they were going to release all their movies on HBO Max, she was not supportive of that. Well, she agreed that Wonder Woman 1984, first of all, they gave her tons of money, but then also, the time had come. It had been a while, and there's only so long you're willing to wait. But she said in the Hollywood Reporter that people will be going to movie studios that are committed to releasing movies theatrically. And Disney in this conference acknowledged that there's nothing like building a franchise through a theatrical experience. There's something about building that bond with the audience. So that's going to presumably be released theatrically. Things could change, but that's the plan. And then, there's a mix of animation here, live action, a lot of series, and basically just pumping up Mando to 11. And we knew of 3 series coming into this, but this is basically saying there's going to be a Star Wars series on almost all the time, or at least, one coming, one just leaving, or one on all year round.
What's the time frame for these 11 shows? Not specifically, but this is over what period of time?
So this is over the next couple of years. So, I think that 2024 fiscal time frame is probably what you're looking at. Patty Jenkins did share a nice video on Twitter. You should check it out. It's in our story, but talking about what that movie meant to her. So, but Doobie, what's your pick?
This one was hard. I'm going to say Rogue Squadron is my number one because I like the idea of a film as opposed to a series. I still prefer to watch a movie than to watch a series. And so to have one tight film, especially based on Rogue One, clearly the best of the Star Wars movies released under Disney, that's exciting.
Do you say Rogue Squadron is based on Rogue One?
No, isn't it based on those same people?
No.
Then which one of those is? All right, then I'm mistaken. But I still like Rogue Squadron because it's a movie. What's it based on?
Well, Rogue Squadron is the squad that takes, in the original trilogy that fights everything. And then, so this is supposed to be a new era of storytelling. So I don't know what that means when it takes place. But Rogue One was a nod to Rogue Squadron, like where Rogue became a...
Okay, fair enough. So there's my confusion, but there is some crossover there. Rogue One was a great movie, so I'm sticking with Rogue Squadron, mostly just because it's a film, though. But I also want to say Obi-Wan Kenobi because I like the idea of Darth Vader coming back, or I shouldn't say Darth Vader coming back, Hayden Christensen coming back because I love this work in Shattered Glass. And then Willow. Willow needs some love. Willow's a great movie from my teenagehood, and and I'm excited to see what they do with it. Val Kilmer is looking really good these days, so I'm hoping he gets a part in it.
My pick's The Acolyte for reasons that I can't share.
That's useless. And Lando's got me a tiny bit excited too, and a little bit scared.
Nat Geo, all of these are original series with the exception of Cousteau, which will have a theatrical run, in documentary style, but then will pop up on Disney Plus. The Genius franchise is going to go focus on Martin Luther King Jr. after Einstein, Picasso, and Aretha Franklin. Secrets of the Whales, A Real Bug's Life, obviously a nod to, I believe, a Pixar film called A Bug's Life. Welcome to Earth, Limitless with Chris Hemsworth, and America the Beautiful. So, do you have a pick here?
Yeah, I do. So I'm a big fan of America the Beautiful at Disneyland, and I hear this is basically the same. No, but America the Beautiful, they describe it as flyovers of national parks as being a big part of it. and I am a sucker. There's a show on Smithsonian Channel called Above, and then insert state here. And I just love flying over stuff and hearing stories about it. So I'm actually quite excited for America the Beautiful for that reason.
Yeah, that's my pick too. Particularly, they were able to take advantage of the pause in the country to get some sort of unspoiled shots. So,
but the one that's particularly intriguing, especially considering the success of The World According to Jeff Goldblum, is Limitless with Chris Hemsworth, huge star, even bigger than Jeff Goldblum. And to see, the little bit he talked about that, it kind of had that same feel in a sense in terms of the part he plays in the overall story, and that's quite intriguing.
Disney Television Studios, I just want to be clear. So they did not talk about Disney Plus unscripted or what we would consider Disney branded television, aka Disney Channel, at all. They just went through a major reorg, so they're probably not ready to kind of unveil their slate. Presumably that's still happening, but this is stuff coming out of the main studios, which is the Mighty Ducks Game Changers, Turner and Hooch, Big Shot, and the Mysterious Benedict Society, which is now Disney branded, even though it was developed by 20th Century Fox for Hulu. So we saw clips of all of 4 of these. And did you have a pick on this, Steve?
I thought it was going to be the Mysterious Benedict Cumberbatch Society because I'm a big fan of his, but then I realized the word Cumberbatch is not there. So I'm going to go with the Mighty Ducks Game Changers. I'm a fan of Lauren Graham from Gilmore Girls days, and my wife is as well. So I'm actually looking forward to watching this with her.
My pick is Mysterious Benedict Society. Just the clip they showed was a lot of fun. Normally, I'm a dog guy, Turner and Hooch, but if you've seen the ending of Turner and Hooch, it makes me nervous. So
wait, seriously? I've never seen Turner and Hooch. It's a comedy movie,
right?
That is wrong.
So going to Disney live action, we're actually going to have a couple slides here. So there's Hocus Pocus 2 was announced, 3 Men and a Baby. Safety is on Disney Plus now. Flora and Ulysses, Cheaper by the Dozen, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, an animated movie, Ice Age, Adventures of Buck Wild, Night at the Museum, animated adaptation, Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, which we saw a brief clip of, Pinocchio, Peter Pan and Wendy, Disenchanted, and Sister Act 3, all going to Disney Plus. With Jungle Cruise, Lion King, the untitled Lion King prequel, The Little Mermaid, and Cruella currently being designated for theatrical release. So what I think is interesting here and what you can see is the nostalgia brand, like 3 Men and a Baby, Hocus Pocus 2, Cheaper by the Dozen. Those seem to be coming to Disney Plus. And the bigger franchises, while Little Mermaid is obviously a nostalgia brand, it's not required as much, has greater penetration than Sister Act franchise. So all those movies where you said, why didn't you make a sequel to blank, that you loved, that gained favor on basic cable, now you're getting the chance. I also think it's interesting, now that they know which movies are popular on Disney Plus after a year of the service, you're probably going to see more sequels to films that are popular on the service. So I imagine the Sister Act films have done well on Disney Plus. Enchanted has done well on Disney Plus, just based on now they're willing to finally, after gazillions years of saying no. They also mentioned that holiday movies are doing well on Disney Plus. So last year we had Noel. This year we had Godmothered. Hocus Pocus is obviously a Halloween movie. So I would expect a Halloween movie and a Christmas movie every year. But
crud, I was just going to say something. Oh, it's interesting that you mentioned, they have obviously better statistics than ever before on what people are watching because of Disney Plus, and then can use that to affect everything from merchandise to sequels to who knows what, which is why I always carefully choose what channel I leave Disney Plus on when I go to bed. And you guys might want to consider that too. Just kidding. It's like turning the turnstile when you walk by the castle back in the day. Boy, so much here. The Little Mermaid's exciting because Daveed Diggs is going to be Sebastian, and I think that alone could just make that so awesome. I love him in Hamilton. But
got a puppy for Hanukkah.
Cruella, the sizzle or whatever for that was crazy. So that could go two ways in my mind. I could see that same type of sizzle being done for zombies. And if they put this at that level, at the tween level, then I wouldn't like it. But if they push it just a little bit more with that kind of feel to it, that could be really, really interesting. Disenchanted. I love Enchanted. I love Amy Adams. That's exciting. But my number one pick is Chippendale Rescue Rangers. They showed us I don't even know if clip's the right word, but they showed us a pre-clip for that. And that was fascinating. And I'm not a Rescue Rangers guy at all. I've never even seen an episode. But if they do with this what it seems like they're going to do, that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, there was nothing I was looking forward to less than I'm a fan of Chippendale Rescue Rangers, and I was like, oh, don't touch it, but the clip the animation test they showed this is now on the top of my list too. From our friends at Walt Disney Animation Studios, we already talked about Raya. And
do you ever automatically call them by your internal nickname when you say that?
Yep. Okay. So they announced a couple series, Baymax, which is about Baymax trying to take care of people. Zootopia Plus, which is if Zootopia had a streaming service, it would be Zootopia Plus. Tiana, which is described as a musical comedy series. Moana, a musical comedy series. And Iwaju, which I'm probably butchering the name, but a new series in partnership with an African storytelling group. And Encanto, with music by Lin-Manuel Miranda, takes place in Colombia and is created by the Zootopia guys. Now, that one is the one that's designated for theatrical at this time, but the rest of these are series, and they will be Disney Plus exclusives.
So Zootopia Plus, you gave a quick overview of Disney Plus and the Zootopia world. Can you give a couple of the show ideas that people can expect to see on Zootopia Plus? Because that really makes it hit home what's going on there.
You
can't remember? I can't remember either. I would have said it, but darn. All right, we'll get back to that. I'm sure you're looking it up.
Yeah, they're basically like real, take series that today, but then putting it in a Zootopia world. It's funny. I think it's kind of, it's probably gonna be short little clips, kind of like a Porky.
One of them was the Real Mousewives of someplace. Yeah. So give you an idea. Okay, so I was on our animation studios panel, so I've thought about this one already, and my pick is Kugali Iwaju because one, it's original, and I'm a big fan of them coming up with original. But two, so Disney's big on diversity, which is all good and such. They've done stories from all over the world. They've certainly done several African American stories. But this is an actual African story. So this is something that did they buy the company, or they're doing it in combination with this company, Kugali, who created an animation studio in Nigeria, a comic book in Nigeria, with the goal of kicking Disney's butt, as they put it. And Disney, being the smart company they are, said, "Yeah, let's do this together." So they're cooperating on this animated film, Iwaju, which is set in Nigeria. And so they're going to but they'll certainly address some of the issues that we often hear about it when diversity comes into play, but not in America, but in a place where we haven't really thought about it before. In Africa, in Laos, Nigeria is where this was developed. So I am greatly looking forward to see what comes of that.
Yeah, I'm exactly on the same page with you because, for years we've mined European grim fairy tales, American folklore, even in China, Mulan and Latin America. So I feel like there's this rich trove of culture in Africa. Everyone has stories, right? Everyone has myths and legends, and much like Black Panther was able to bring us a genre we know, but through a different lens. I'm excited about that from an animation standpoint, because it's just another way to get something new instead of another fairy tale in the Grimm style. Not that I don't love those, but this is, in the world of Disney Plus, you can have whatever you want. So, we might as well expand the horizons a bit.
And as a African American, honestly, it interests me more at this point seeing an African story as opposed to an African American story. African American stories have been done, up, down, and sideways by Disney and every place, especially over the past few years. Far more interesting to me at this point to go to Africa and, believe it or not, I shouldn't have said that, but it's an entirely different culture. The African culture versus the African American culture might as well be as different as the Swedish culture versus the African American culture. So that's of interest. What really fascinated me is how much other people on our team were excited about Tiana. That's the one that stuck out as being excited to everyone in our panel.
Well, what's interesting to me about Tiana is, and I didn't watch the show, but the return of traditional animation. To the animation studios, and once you build that muscle back, does that open the doors for more traditional animation because you have a unit for it?
Do we know Tiana is traditional?
They said in the style of, so I would presume so.
Okay.
As much as traditional is traditional anymore. It's still done through computers, but I'm going to move on to Pixar. So they announced, obviously, Soul, once again, not a Disney Plus original, but just on Disney Plus. But they announced a bunch of series called Doug Days, which is about Doug living with Carl Fredricksen. A new Cars series where Lightning McQueen goes on a road trip with Mater. And a long-form series, like a full-length series called Win or Lose, which is their first original series. Then we have Luca, which we know is coming theatrical. Turning Red, which is a newly announced movie about a girl who every time she gets excited turns into a giant red panda. And then Lightyear, where Chris Evans voiced Buzz Lightyear, not the toy, but the movie action character that the toy was inspired on. You got to pick?
Where's Pixar Popcorn?
Oh, that's just not on the slide. But
that's my pick. It's Pixar Popcorn. I love Forky asks a question, and I'm hoping that Pixar Popcorn evokes stuff like that. That was just the funniest, cleverest thing in the world. And then Doug Days, which feels like it should have been a Pixar Popcorn, but I guess not. But similar kind of thing.
I think the Pixar Popcorns are really, really short.
Really like Forky?
Like maybe shorter than Forky.
Can't get a lot shorter than Forky. All right, then I'm going to go with Doug Days then, because Doug Days felt like Forky asked a question, and it was so hilarious, the clip they showed us. So I'll go with Doug Days.
I'm quite frankly excited about all this stuff, but I think Lightyear might be my most excited, just because it's after this will be Pixar will have released 3 original movies in a row by the time Lightyear comes out. So no, when I say 3, I mean 4. So it'd be nice to kind of have a little bit of comfort food again. I know it's not the same character, no, it's not the same voice, but this is the movie we've been hearing about, and that's been in their heads forever. And it's nice to get a chance to finally see it. Yeah, Jeffrey brings up a good point. The popcorns are probably like those Olaf, 1 minute kind of quick bites.
Like the popcorn. Yeah. Lightyear's above the rest.
Moving on. Okay, so this is once again. Okay, so
have the other studios just thrown in the towel?
So no, you got to remember that Marvel has sort of been backed up, right? Like they Falcon and Winter Soldier and WandaVision was supposed to come out, Black Widow and Eternals was supposed to come out. Things got all jacked up, but WandaVision is finally coming out January 15th, which will tie into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, which will then tie into the third Spider-Man film. If you haven't realized that all 3 are connected, you're not watching Marvel Time every Wednesday. Then you have the Falcon and the Winter Soldier tying into Black Widow. You got Loki, which is, the trailer's out for the public, but looks bizarre and fantastic. Their animated series What If, which is what if this happened instead of that happened, based on the iconic Marvel comic book series Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, going all the way back to the first Iron Man movie. Ms. Marvel, which will then tie into Captain Marvel 2, Eternals. Then you have Hawkeye, an original series. And they announced someone who's going to be in that one, who I'm forgetting, but and then She-Hulk, which will feature the return of the Abomination all the way from the second MCU film, and Mark Ruffalo from the second time the Hulk appeared in the MCU. And the promise that since she is a lawyer who represents superhuman cases, it is likely you will see other superheroes from the MCU. But wait, there's more. Moon Knight, which is like Indiana Jones in the MCU with associative identity disorder. Secret Invasion, one of the most iconic comic book series of all time with Nick Fury, and Ironheart, which is what if a young African-American girl was able to build an Iron Man style outfit. Armor Wars featuring Rhodey from War Machine on Don Cheadle. The Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special.
Not Terrence Stamp?
What's that?
Not Terrence Stamp, is that his name?
Terrence Howard?
Terrence Howard, yeah. They didn't bring him back for Armor Wars?
I think Terrence Stamp is God.
Yeah, go on. Just ignore me.
Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special will be filmed the same time as they filmed Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, I Am Groot, Thor, Love and Thunder, Blade.
I feel like Thor, Love and Thunder should be under the Hulu button.
So it's HBO after 10. Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, featuring Kang the Conqueror. Black Panther 2, they're not recasting Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa, but they will continue to explore the world of Wakanda. And then the big news of the new Fantastic Four, because when it comes to Fantastic Four, third time's the charm.
Directed by Josh Trank?
No, John Watts, who's done the MCU Spider-Man movies.
Yes, he's not God, he's Zod. Yes, I missed my cue there. Thanks, Ben. I blew it.
Yeah.
Wow. Is that it?
Yes.
There must be more. Come on. Did you mention Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings?
I did.
All right. So there's so much here. Unfortunately, I'm not the biggest Marvel fan in the world. They're fine, but they just seem to be the same thing over and over, and now it will be the same thing over and 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 over. But some of these stick out in my mind. WandaVision, after seeing the trailer that they showed us for that one, I'm finally excited for that. It feels like a Truman Show-esque kind of thing, and that was fascinating. So I'm curious to see what that is. And Loki, just because Loki is such an incredible character, I'm excited for that one. But the single thing I'm most excited for here, I have the highest hopes for here, is the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special.
I'm most excited for Secret Invasion. One of my biggest frustrations with Captain Marvel was not the movie itself, but the fact that it kind of hinted that we weren't going to get Secret Invasion, and a series, which is the only way to do Secret Invasion, where the Skrulls have invaded the highest levels of Earth. It's just so.
I don't know who you are, Mike, but that's pretty funny. I thought it was funny.
Ding Dong and the Legend of the Sleepy Webcast Watchers?
Yeah.
Is that what?
I think that's a dig at the fact that we've been going on a long time, and I'm fine with that.
Sorry. I didn't.
I need to apologize. It's funny.
It's the internet.
It's funny.
I didn't know if it was a real. Ding Dongs just makes me think of like ho-hos. So I was confused.
Speaking of which, we had Santa Claus on Disney Trivia Live last night. Go check that out. Go on.
So, any case, lots on Disney Plus, and more coming. So, moving forward, the group Disney is going to be divided into two profit groups: Disney Media and Entertainment, which is Disney Plus, theatrical, everything that TV, all that stuff, And then parks, experiences, and products, which is self-explanatory. It's the groups that focuses on parks, experiences, and consumer products. Obviously, the DPEP group right now, a little struggling. So that's why they focus this event on Disney Media and Entertainment and growing Disney Plus into profitability, but also not forgoing their existing businesses. So we talked earlier about how they blew past expectations. So they set new expectations. So originally they thought by the end of 2024, they would have 60 to 90 million subscribers. Now they're saying they're going to have 230 to 260 million subscribers, which is about quadruple.
Can you refresh our memory as to how many subscribers The King has?
Netflix?
Yes.
They have about 200 million.
So they anticipate perhaps, I realize Netflix will grow as well, but that they actually will compete head to head with Netflix for number one.
Yeah, Netflix will keep growing. Netflix has struggled in India, where Disney has excelled. So if you're looking purely at a subscriber basis, Disney is going to have a disproportionate improvement in India, but also remember that's where they're getting less dollar per subscriber, or ARPU, average revenue per user. So here's the sad news. Disney Plus is increasing its price in March, for those who didn't lock in for 3 years, to $7.99 a month.
4 years.
What's that?
4 years. I was also a Verizon member.
So if for some reason you don't think Disney's worth an extra, Disney Plus with all this new content's worth $12 a year, you're probably watching the wrong web show. It's, first of all, it's not an either or. You can get both.
I know. And I suspect most people do, but I would love to know how many people have made the decision, I only want one, and I'm making it Disney Plus.
I have not watched Netflix in forever. Part of it's because I watch so much Disney content for this, but also, I enjoy it. So I could, if it was up to me, we would have done Netflix, but I don't run everything here.
I still watch more Netflix than Disney Plus.
So. But and also Netflix is twice the price too, which comes into even at this new pricing. Europe, it's, as we mentioned, is going up about €2. So last year, Disney expected to spend $2 billion on Disney Plus content. In the end, it's hard to say what happened with the pandemic, because they obviously, a lot of shows that they planned on creating weren't able to be produced, but then a lot of stuff also ended up going from theatrical to Disney Plus. So we don't really know what ended up happening this year yet, but they announced that in 2024 they were going to spend $4 billion. Well, now they're doubling that. So whatever they were planning on having on the service by 2024, it's not saying that there's going to be twice as much shows as there was, but some shows will have bigger budgets than they originally anticipated, and I think it was interesting that they noted the volume, which is the stagecraft unit that they make The Mandalorian with, and makes it affordable for television and allows actors to interact. And they're building 4 more.
Can you talk about, especially considering you're talking about budgets and such? You didn't mention how Disney seemed to want to make a point about quality versus quantity.
Yeah, Bob Iger basically said volume, not related to the volume, but it's quality over volume. And I don't have Netflix, I don't want, as I said, I haven't turned on Netflix in forever, but there's good stuff there. There's no question, but there's a lot of garbage, or at least there was. And I think Disney would rather have one series that's great than 5 series that are mediocre. And Disney Plus has their own, lower level tier as well. But because they have stuff like The Mandalorian and Kevin Feige series, they know they're fairly certain those are going to hit. So they don't have to have 10 things happening at the same time and hope one of them hits. They know that Mandalorian is going to at least get eyeballs as long as it's good. So they rather focus on making it good than making a lot of it.
But as we're seeing today, they're both making it good and making a lot of it.
Well, and we can talk about expectations, and I don't know what your expectation coming into this event was, Doobie, but I expected a few new shows and kind of like revised pricing and numbers. I didn't expect a complete deluge.
And clearly, and I mean, no one must have, because one of the fascinating things to do was to watch Disney's stock price before and after. It was not a surprise they were doing an investor day. It's not a surprise they do an investor day where they have good stuff to announce, not bad stuff to announce. And yet the next day their stock went up, what, 14% in one day? I'm literally speechless.
I was talking to a coworker about how I was going to be out of the office so I could cover Investor Day for Laughing Place. And he's like, okay, maybe I'll buy a share, just to, a couple shares to support you. And I was like, oh, okay. Like now I'm feeling like worried. And then he ended up making a lot of money. So previously they expected to have peak operating losses until fiscal year 2022. Now they expect their peak losses to be basically right now in 2021. And still expect to be profitable in 2024. They'll have more subscribers, but they're spending more on content. Hulu, their revised figure, not as dramatic, going from 40 to 60 to 50 to 60. Still, they did expect to be profitable by 2023 or 24. Now they expect to be profitable by 2023. It's important to note that Disney does not fully own Hulu. Comcast is a silent partner. And so they really have to be careful about what they can do there. There's some sort of restrictions set up by the Comcast deal for them. ESPN Plus originally expected 8 to 12 million. As we saw, they basically have hit that. So now they're expecting 20 to 30 million. Now that's a big range. And I think that they, without knowing what rights they're going to get necessarily going forward, I think that might play an impact. There's talk of a lot of marquee rights going to ESPN Plus. But until those deals are signed and delivered, there may be some modulation there.
So fascinating to me that these.
Iger did warn us towards the beginning there was going to be a lot of info. As Bob Iger said, where else are you going to
go? It's so fascinating to me that these streaming services, the heart of this Disney company going forward, the reason why their stock price is at all-time highs, are actually not profitable yet and won't be for several years.
And so they expect their global direct-to-consumer content spend in 2024 to be 14 to 16 billion. If you do the math, we said Disney Plus was going to be about 9 billion, so that leaves 4 to 6 for everyone, or 5 to 7 for everyone else. And they expect 300 to 350 million global subscriptions across Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN by the end of fiscal 2024. So as a reminder, in the United States, that's one service. That would be 3. For everyone else, they're only going to count them as 1 because they expect so many people on Star to also get the Disney Plus. They're only going to count them as 1 subscriber. So only in America would you get this sort of triple dip possibility. So, I think there's just a lot that they're going to be spending. It's interesting to see how the stock price bounced as it did without fully knowing when the parks are going to recover. I'll be curious to see if the parks reopen, fully, what that does to the stock moving forward. So this is a good question. Why does Disney need Hulu if they have Disney Plus for non-Disney content? Basically, Hulu has a brand in the United States, and it allowed them to get into that non-Disney market in the United States. It's entirely likely that if Hulu was not part of Disney, they would have gone the route they're going in other countries where there would have been a Star tab or whatever it would have been called in Disney Plus. But since Hulu already has a brand and a separate pricing structure, and also a lot more content, they don't have just Disney branded content. They have a lot of stuff. Whereas Star will just be stuff created for ABC, FX, and things like that. But there's a lot, and they're not going the AT&T route of just nuking the whole theatrical business, but they know that Disney Plus is where their growth is. You can see them trying to walk the line of, we know Wall Street wants us to invest in direct-to-consumer, but it's silly for us to just give up billions of dollars in box office just because Wall Street tells me to.
And that's an interesting thing for Disney, for another company that, Warner Brothers has had their hits and misses, and even smaller companies, they're not making billion-dollar movies. Disney has what? If you count Spider-Man, like 8 of the top 10 all-time domestic box office movies are consistently dominating the top 5. For Disney to get out of theatrical, if theatrical makes any kind of bounce back at all, is to throw away hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars that they don't have to do because people are going to subscribe to Disney Plus anyway.
But, I don't necessarily believe the Rich Greenfield thing that people who don't want to see a movie in theaters aren't willing to wait a month to see the movie at home, or 2 months or 3 months, especially for an event movie. I think we all want, as fans, we enjoy the experience of going seeing those big movies in a theater. Now, the smaller stuff that, the singles and doubles, even in a franchise world, yeah, sure, that's fine on Disney Plus. But I think, I've seen Soul and I watched it on my home screen, and I regret not being able to see it on a big screen. I want to see Wonder Woman 84 on a big screen. Those are obviously constrained by real world situations, but Disney makes the kind of movies that people want to see theatrically. And if they leave the theatrical space in any meaningful way, once this pandemic is over, it's going to really harm the theater business. But we also Disney doesn't know, and we don't know what's going to happen once the pandemic's over. Have people's habits changed where they don't want to go to a movie theater? No. Will they revert to their normal habits? Or
will pay $200.
There'll be so much pent up demand to get out of the house that they'll just go, see whatever they can at a movie theater.
I will pay $100 to see whatever the first movie is out, just to get out there.
Right. And so, and we don't know the answer. We don't know how to, we know what we're going to do, but we don't know what everyone's going to do. So, they're going to wait and see what happens. And hopefully, things return to normal just for everyone's economic sake soon. And we can get back to having not just more theatrical content, but more content on Disney Plus. And I just to reiterate, there's a whole creative engine that they did not talk about at all, which is the Disney Channel unscripted group, the folks that did Imagineering Story, Earth to Ned, stuff like that. So presumably they're still going to be making content for Disney Plus too, but Disney Plus as well, not Disney Plus. That's not another service. And they just went through a reorg, so I'm guessing it's just that they're not ready to reveal their slate. But there's more than this. They expect something new, a new series or film every week.
Are we ready to get to our last week, next week?
Absolutely. Let me get ready. So, as is tradition, we were going to share our highlight from the previous week and look ahead to what we're most excited for next week. So, Doobie, what was your highlight from last week?
So obviously Investor Day is a big deal, but I'm going to get much more specific than that. And I'm so glad this did not come up so I could just reveal this on its own. We're sitting there watching this thing, virtually. The whole LP team is watching this thing together virtually. And the Kardashians come on the screen. I care not one little tiny bit for the Kardashians. I've never seen an episode. I could not tell one from another, but I also recognize that there's a segment of the world where they are some of the biggest stars in history. And all of a sudden they are coming under the Disney umbrella as the Kardashians are bringing their reality empire in some form to Hulu. And when that clicked in my head that the Kardashians are now Disney, that moment will be remembered for a long time.
My highlight was, I can't just pick Investor Day, which is like obviously a normal thing. My thing is Alex was on image capture duty. We were trying to just take notes, and so he was getting all the information for us because we were all working. And seeing the back of his head get excited about various projects, we were all trying to be quiet so we could hear. But every once in a while, you would just see him lose absolute control of his bodily functions. And that was my highlight.
And that would include the Kardashians, right?
I don't know about that.
No, that got a negative reaction, but yeah. And then next week, I think it's pretty obvious what the highlight's going to be next week, what I'm most looking forward to. and that is 12:01 a.m. Friday morning, the finale of The Mandalorian.
Season finale.
Season finale, yes. Season finale. The winter break finale?
No.
Until next winter, but yeah.
Well, yeah.
The season finale.
It's been a great seven.
This season two has been even better than season one. And it hit me. Well, no, I'm not going to talk anything spoilers just in case. But this past episode, despite the fact it was very different than every single one of the other episodes in certain ways, was maybe the best of all. The show is just so incredibly good. So incredibly good.
My highlight is actually tomorrow. So I got a rough week after that. I'm excited. Tomorrow, the embargo for the High Republic lifts. And I'm excited to have Mike tell us all about it.
What's the High Republic?
What's that?
What is the High Republic
initiative from Lucasfilm, which when they announced it, we figured, oh, that's where they're going to have Mandalorian, and then the rest of Star Wars will be focused on the High Republic, which is a series of books and novels and comic books. We didn't realize there was going to be 1,800 Marvel series, but nonetheless, still excited to hear what he has to say. In fact, he will be our guest next week on LP In Depth to talk about the High Republic, his thoughts, and what it means for Star Wars storytelling moving forward. So, as they mentioned, Star Wars Acolyte is a series that takes place at the end of the High Republic era. So, even though we thought it was just going to be about books, that High Republic world will come to filmed entertainment.
So Mike says it's 3 a.m. where he is, and this was an amazing episode. I'm going to guess he's not referring to the latest episode of the Kardashians, but is in fact referring to LP In Depth.
Oh, I thought he was referring to Mandalorian.
Nah, I'm going to say he's referring to us.
Okay. Tell us, Mike. I doubt that.
No, don't tell us, Mike. I want to go to bed thinking it was us. Mandalorian was an amazing episode.
I also want to give some quick highlights. We do still cover theme parks, even though they are not at the forefront. Jeremiah is going to be at Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom this week, going live. And we also have tomorrow Alex's review of On Point, which is a new Disney Plus original drama docuseries, which will debut on Friday. And he says, LOL, last Mando show.
No, go back. See, he's delirious at 3 a.m. On Point is about a ballet school?
Yep.
No, not looking forward to that.
We'll find out. We'll find out tomorrow. Tune into Laughing Place tomorrow to find out what he thinks about On Point. Pointe.
Trying to decide if I'm looking forward to that, but I decided I'm not.
And then we've got a special thing. Not only will we have LP In Depth on Sunday, we have a special broadcast coming on Sunday, which I'm not going to announce right now, but stay tuned. It's going to be special.
Can you tell me?
Yes.
Okay.
So Thanks so much, Doobie.
Thanks so much, Benji. Thanks all of you guys for tuning in, sticking with us for this long episode of LP In Depth. I hope it was worth it, though. I thought it was worth it. You know, we one of the things we value about LP is we're able to look at things in ways that most other Disney fan sites just, I don't want to say can't, but don't. And one of those is really looking at things from a business perspective when we want to. Benji's particularly good at that. And I think he showed that today. And I love having that perspective on things. I hope you do too.
Yeah. And I mean, just to share, we look at it from a business perspective, but we want to, looking at through that lens can share us what we're going to get as fans, because it can help us read the tea leaves about where things are going. And so we're going to, through the business side, we get to see why we're getting so much content and where that content's going to come from. So,
and remember, today's content is tomorrow's theme park ride.
Yeah, well, that's why I was excited about that thing from Disney Animation. I mean, I think just the concept art would look so great in a theme park environment.
Definitely.
Yes.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks everybody for joining us. And what do you got tomorrow? What do we got live tomorrow? We got
Disney Parks live tomorrow's at 4 p.m. Pacific time. That's me.
And then in the morning, at 9 a.m. will be Mike's High Republic review. At 11 a.m., we're taking an inside look into Pixar. And then 1:30 Mando Monday with Mike and special guest star Jeremiah.
Pixar's Tuesday. Are you moving this around and right in front of me?
No, I'm sorry. 11 a.m. is Marvel Studios. Pixar's the next day.
Yeah.
I messed up. Okay. So there's a lot going on.
There's a real simple solution for you. Subscribe to our channel, ring the bell, and you'll find out every single time we go live. You won't miss a single time. Don't have to memorize anything. Just let YouTube do the work for you.
So long, Jibby.
See you, Ben. It's been real.